मित्रों, माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी ने 1 फरवरी 2021 में अपने बजट भाषण में ये कहा था कि वर्ष 2021-22 में सरकार एयर इंडिया के डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट को पूरा करना चाहती है। इस संदर्भ में डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट प्रोसेस की अंतिम कड़ी में कैबिनेट कमेटी ऑफ इकोनॉमिक अफेयर्स द्वारा अधिकृत एयर इंडिया स्पेसिफिक ऑल्टरनेट मैकेनिज्म, जिसको हम आईएसएम कहते हैं, ने विनिंग बिड पर स्वीकृति प्रदान की है। जैसा आपको विदित है, आईएसएम के सदस्य हैं माननीय गृह मंत्री जी, माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी, माननीय वाणिज्य एवं उद्योग मंत्री जी और माननीय नागरिक उड्डयन मंत्री जी। अब मैं आपको इस विषय पे एक प्रेजेंटेशन के माध्यम से सूचना देना चाहूँगा। So this is when we started the process. Actually, it began in July 2017, as you are aware. In the first round, when we had issued the preliminary information memorandum in March 2018, we did not elicit any interest. Then the second round was started with the issue of new PIM on 27 January 2020. We received 7 expressions of interest by December 14, 2020. 5 bidders were disqualified as they did not meet the requirements of PIM, which included the eligibility criteria. Our net worth criteria was 3,500 crore. In second stage, financial bids received on 15th September 2021 from both qualified bidders in sealed cover. This is after the long process of due diligence, which normally follows, including looking into all the contracts and other things, site visits, looking at inspections in the virtual data room, and also the draft share purchase agreement which is shared, and then comments and queries are received thereon. Next. Now we have multi-layered decision making for all significant issues here. It's important to see what the process is. There is an inter-ministerial group chaired by Secretary DIPAM and Secretary Civil Aviation, which has got representation from various other ministries. There's a core group of secretaries chaired by Cabinet Secretary. And then finally there is an Air India specific alternate mechanism chaired by Home Minister, which is comprising Finance Minister, Minister Civil Aviation and Minister Commerce and Industry. We have a system of appointing professional advisors to support the process, which includes transaction advisor, legal advisor and asset valuer. The process has been carried out in a transparent manner with due regard to confidentiality of bidders. And this was a competitive process with competition maintained throughout the transaction process, and including the fact that we do not reveal actually the number of bidders in the offering so as to avoid collusive bidding. Important milestones in the transaction process, I would come to that. As you know, EOIs were expected by March 17, 2020. With the outbreak of COVID, time extensions were allowed till December 14, 2020. Now, another important thing was, in place of the original bidding construct, which was an equity basis with a predetermined debt level in the company, the construct was revised to enterprise value. And as before, there was also a provision for certain identified current and non-current liabilities will be matched with current and non-current assets, with access to be taken out to AIAHL. AIAHL is another GOI SPV, Air India Asset Holding Company, where we are transferring some of the assets and liabilities. Non-core land and assets are not to be offered to the acquirer. So this will actually be taken over to the new company, to the Government of India, AIAHL. Interests of employees and retired employees have been taken care of. With the EV mode of bidding, which is the enterprise value mode of bidding, bidders got an opportunity to resize the balance sheet under a transparent value discovery process. Now, bidders would now bid on the total consideration for equity and debt as per that construct. We had a minimum cash consideration of 15% of quoted EV, and a maximum retained debt could be 85% of quoted EV. Now, at the RFP stage, the important milestones were RFP and confidential information memorandum and draft SPA were shared with qualified interested bidders in March 2021. Information shared in virtual data room for due diligence of QIBs. Meetings with management of company and site visits for due diligence facilitated. Over 200 queries asked, seeking clarifications and revisions to SPA. Queries responded and agreed form SPA. We call it agreed form SPA, that means share purchase agreement, which includes the terms and conditions of the sale. With bidders on 7th September 2021, and final agreed form SPA initiated by bidders and submitted along with bid on 15th September 2021. So the bid has come with an agreed form SPA, which means that we are not negotiating any terms and conditions after the bid. Once the bid was received, prior to that, the bidders have agreed to all the terms and conditions under which this bid will prevail. This is a standard process. Important milestones in the transaction process is also determination of reserve price. As per approved procedure, valuation exercise was undertaken. Transaction advisor carried out valuation of EV through business valuation methods. Asset valuer carried out valuation of EV through asset valuation methods. Valuation exercise carried out on methodology approved by the interministerial group. And IMG considered the valuation reports and recommended a reserve price for the transaction. The core group of secretaries on disinvestment approved the reserve price. Reserve price was set before opening the sealed financial bids. It's important that in our process we ensure that there is a complete independence between the bidding and the reserve price fixation. Security clearance applications of both bidders verified and ascertained that both were security cleared. Then transaction advisor and legal advisor certified that supporting documents submitted by the bidders were in order and both bidders were technically qualified for participation. The financial bids were opened by interministerial group in presence of bidders on 29 September 2021. Both bidders quoted well over the reserve price. IMG recommended accepting the H1 bid, which was agreed to by the CGT and recommended to ISM. ISM approved the price bid in their meeting on 4th October 2021. Bids received. These are the bid received. So the Tata Sons Private Limited, their SPV, Talis Private Limited, is the winning bidder at 18,000 crore. The second bidder was consortium led by Shri Ajay Singh. This is a consortium, not an individual sole bid. The transaction does not include non-core assets, including land and building, valued at 14,718 crore. These are not being part of the transaction. These are being transferred to Government of India's AIAHL. It includes Nariman Point, Air India headquarters here, some other buildings. There are subsidiaries where Air India has investments. These will be hived off. So, Talis Private Limited, which is basically Tata Sons SPV, has emerged as a successful bidder for the sale of equity shareholding of GOI in Air India, in AIXL, which is a subsidiary of Air India as a part of this transaction, and 50% of Air India in AISATS, which is another joint venture of Air India, along with management control. Now, going forward from this, a letter of intent will be issued and SPA will be signed with successful bidder. Conditions precedent will be completed by long stop date. Financial statements on long stop date will be prepared and agreed with the successful bidder as per the share purchase agreement already agreed upon. And transaction is expected to close by the end of December 2021. Thank you very much. That, completes my presentation, giving you the information. And now we are open to the question. My colleague Rajiv Bansal, Secretary Civil Aviation, is there as well to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We will now take questions. Okay, 126.
Sir, congratulations. This is Ruchi Bhatia from ET Now. I want to first begin by asking you on what worked for the Air India's disinvestment process, privatization process this time around, and when will you look at completely doing the handover as well, sir?
Actually, there were many things that we had bid criteria which were actually changed. In the initial, the first round, we were actually retaining 26% with us. So it was not 100% sale. The second was the construct was their equity value. The third, the debt was prefixed. Then the debt itself has, the current liabilities issues had not been really clarified on that because there is a lot of current assets and current liabilities gap. And then there were other conditions which were also, relating to merger and other things which were not really clear. So I think these points have been then subsequently taken care of while we did the construct. And I think the enterprise value construct was important in this case because the Air India had very excessive debt, which we are all aware that this debt is not really a debt for which the underlying assets are there. This debt has come about because of, continuous losses which the Air India has, borne. I mean, the losses are in excess of 70,000 crore. And they have actually been funded through this debt, which has been government guaranteed. So because of this excess debt, there was no scope for, it had to be hived off. But how much of the amount to be hived off was to be determined through the market in this EB process rather than we taking any a priori view of the debt.
Okay, 106. Ruchi will come back to you later.
As I said, by December 2021, we want to close the transaction, and the closing would actually mean, the date of closing would mean that we will get the consideration and they will get the shares.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I have two questions here. First question is 29,464 crore rupees. Hello, can you hear me? This is Anu Sharma from CMC TV 18. My first question is 29,464 crore rupees was transferred from Air India's debt to the SPV. Now the debt has risen to over 40,000 crore, nearly 42,000 crore. This quote has around 15,000 crore for the debt part. So what happens to the remaining debt, which is close to around 27,000 crore rupees? Will it go to the SPV? Who will pay for it? The other part is Tatas currently have two airlines in India, Vistara and AirAsia India. How will that work for Tatas once Air India and Air India Express goes to them? Thank you.
Okay, let me come to the debt position. See, the debt as on March 31, 2021 is 44,781 crore in the books of AI. And there is a debt also on the books of AI XL. Combined debt of AI and XL as on March 31, 2021 is 46,239 crore. And then, I would rather, instead of this breakdown, I'll give you the final figures. The total debt as on August 31, 2021 will be 61,562 crores. 61,562 crore. 61,562 crore as on August 31. No,
We'll come to
we will come to
everybody
that.
one by one.
Let me give in a simpler way. 61,560 crore. Out of that, the debt which will be taken over by the successful bidder will be 15,300 crore. As you said, that 18,000 crore is the bid, of which 15% consideration will be cash and 85% will be debt. So 15,300 crore will be taken off. So debt position after debt taken over by the successful bidder will remain 46,262 crores. That is the debt which is remaining. 46,262 crore. This is going to be going to the AIAHL. 46,262 crore. Yes, the airlines will get the debt of 15,300 crore. Because that is the construct. You quote the debt you are going to take and the rest will be hived off. Now, I would like to highlight here an important point. What is it that the government has put in Air India since 2009 and 10? The government has put in 54,584 crore as cash support. Since 2009-10, I am telling, not prior to that. And 55,692 crore as guarantee support. So, in total, government support since 2009-10 has been 1,10,276 crore. And largely, if you say, because if you have year after year after year after losses, so all these losses have actually been funded, some part from the equity, which was a minor part, largely through the government guaranteed debt. So therefore, actually, if you look at it, that there are no underlying assets as such, because this is all loss which has been funded through the debt which is guaranteed by the government. So the taxpayers have actually, put in 1,10,276 crore in Air India since 2009 and 10. 1,10,276 crore.
Okay, 121, Shishir.
Yes, I think that is up to them. So far as the bid is concerned, we will hand over, whenever the consideration is paid. Of course, the construct, the share purchase agreement, etc., allows them to go ahead with the mergers and other things. I mean, there is no restriction as such. The restriction is subject to, during the time, they will maintain, in the equity lock-in period, they have to maintain 51%. That means the ownership. The ownership has to be there with the bidder who has got it.
Sir, I have two questions. Sir, one is, when you talk about 18,000 crore rupees of the bid, and out of that 15,300 crore is the debt and remaining in the cash. So what is the actual amount the government is going to get after this transaction is completed? This is number one. And number two is, when you talked about that they are free to go for merger and acquisition, so will this process also go to the CCI so that there should not be any kind of monopoly or any kind of dominance in the market?
I'll answer your later part first. Every strategic sale is to have the CCI approval. That is a regulatory approval is required, so that will have to be taken. So therefore, when I said that between signing and closing, there is a period in which all these approvals have to be taken. There are also third-party approvals. There are lenders. There are many things which need to go between this time. There are condition precedent. There are certain conditions which company has to satisfy. There are certain conditions which the bidder has to satisfy. And there are certain conditions which the government has to satisfy. And on satisfaction of these conditions, only closing can take place. The other part, as you mentioned, was regarding, yes, I mean, basically, in this case, the construct is that you have you have certain liabilities where, for example, I said that there is a government guarantee, which means that basically, if the loan is not paid back by the Air India, then government has to pay back. So it is as good as the government liability. Now, to that extent the liabilities remain in the Air India, that is the part of bidder. And to that extent the liabilities go out, and I mentioned it, that there will be at least debt liability of 46,000 which are going away. No, government gets 18,000 basically in this, because whether it is debt or a cash, I mean, there is an equity consideration of 15% and the debt consideration of this. This is the consideration. Cash will be 2,700 crore, and the remaining, the debt will be taken over. So therefore, we would be, that kind of debt, government would not have to take over. So it is as good as government getting money. 46,260 crore will the debt that will remain, which the government has to take over in the AIAHL. Now just to further make it clear, 46,262 crores will be the debt which will be taken over to AIAHL. Then 14,718 crore will be the assets which will be taken over by AIAHL. So to that extent, we are getting liability of 46,262 and a debt of, and then assets of 14,718. And 2,700 crore we have got the cash equity. So net impact will be 845 crore. That is one part. The second part will be, if I'll give you a arithmetical breakup, ultimately we will say the impact on GOI after the non-core assets and excess liabilities are all taken off, because there are assets are also going, there are excess liabilities are going, then there is some excess current liabilities also going. The net impact to the government will be 44,679 crore, which will actually go to the AIAHL.
Number 10, please. Mike.
What will be the inflow into the government coffers as a result of divesting 100% stake in Air India?
As I said, 20,000 crore. That's the bid. Sorry, 18,000 crore. Yes, I mean, if you really look at the equity position, the net worth condition, it is minus 33,000 crore in Air India. If you say net worth of the Air India for which we are selling the equity, so if you are looking at equity consideration, it is minus 32 at this position. Air India is deeply negative.
Okay, 125.
Good evening, sir. Sapna here from CNBC TV 18. Two quick questions, sir. One, of course, you have explained the debt and the liability position. I just wanted to understand, sir, what was the reserve price that was set by the government for the deal to go through? And second, also, you have mentioned that the employees will be taken care of. Could you elaborate on that? I mean, what is the understanding for the first year, second year, probably, down the line? And third, one very small, quick question. You are saying that the handover will be done by December end, but when will the transaction actually conclude? Some idea of that. Thank you.
I think the last question I've answered many times. It is expected that the transaction will be concluded by December end. So, because that is a handing over, conclusion of transaction, or they start off, whatever you may call it, that's the same thing. Employees question, Rajiv can handle. On the other point was, there was, pardon? Yeah, reserve price was fixed as 12,906 crore. Yes, EV. We are talking of EV because the bid was an EV. So EV was 12,906 crores.
Number 17. Please go ahead.
And how much more time would it take?
That is the debt government has to retire. So question is, these are 94% of the debt is government guaranteed. So it's backed by sovereign guarantee. So assets will have to be sold in terms of, in AIAHL, the work will be selling those assets and then settling the liabilities. So that will be the work of AIAHL, which the government will have to do. But going forward, we are right now, Air India is having losses 20 crores a day. So those losses after handover will not come to the taxpayers.
Mr. Bansal, would you like to answer the question regarding the employees? Yeah.
Okay, so the government has addressed all the concerns of the employees. I'll point out some of the concerns here. First and foremost, the winning bidder will retain all employees, which means they will not retrench anybody for a period of 1 year. Thereafter, for the second year after the first year, they will retain all the employees, and if anybody is to be retrenched or removed, they will be offered a VRS. These are the two protections to the employees in terms of their employment. Thirdly, they will be provided the gratuity benefits as well as the provident fund benefits as per the applicable laws of the land. And the post-retirement medical benefits of the employees, those who have retired as well as those who will be retiring in future, will be protected and provided by the government. There are other smaller issues also which the government has considered, and all the concerns of the employees have been catered to.
I will add here, there are the Justice Dharmadhikari Commission dues which will be paid by the GOI. Government of India will pay that. It is estimated that 1,332 crore, which are outstanding, they will be cleared.
Number 62. Number 62.
1,332 crore.
Sir,
No, the VRS is, one year from the date of closing, yes.
Okay. सर मैं लक्ष्मण CNBC आवाज से मेरा सवाल ये है कि इस बार आपने जो रिजर्व प्राइस तय किया है वो फाइनेंशियल बिड मिलने के बाद आपने तय किया है, ओपन होने से पहले किया है, तो इसके पीछे कुछ खास वजह और क्या यही तरीका दूसरे सरकारी कंपनियों के डाइवेस्टमेंट में किया जाएगा? और एक सवाल ये है कि आपने कर्मचारियों की बात कही, एयर इंडिया का लोगो और नाम ये कब तक इनको रिटेन करना पड़ेगा?
पहला तो प्रश्न में आपका आंसर देना चाहूँगा, जो रिजर्व प्राइस है वो सभी स्थिति में, ये हमारा प्रोसेस है दीपम में कि जो रिजर्व प्राइस होता है वो उसे हम अलग से करते हैं तब जबकि फाइनेंशियल बिड जो है वो सील्ड एनवेलप में क्लोज हो जाती है। उसका कारण सिंपल है कि यदि रिजर्व प्राइस हम पहले फिक्स करते हैं तो उसका चांस है कि कहीं से लीकेज से किसी को उसका आभास हो जाए, तो हम नहीं चाहते कि कंपेटिटिव प्रोसेस में किसी भी तरह का उनको होना चाहिए, उनको अपना बेस्ट प्राइस देना चाहिए। चूंकि वो बिड्स बंद हो गई हैं और हमें उसके बारे में कोई जानकारी नहीं है, तो उसके बाद जब हम रिजर्व प्राइस निकालेंगे, इन्फॉर्मेशन तो हमारे पास सब होती है पहले, लेकिन रिजर्व प्राइस जब हम फिक्स करेंगे उसके बाद, तो अब हमारे पास कोई सुराग उनको जाने का डर नहीं है यदि भी कोई लीकेज कहीं से हुआ, क्योंकि उनकी बिड्स तो आ चुकी है और वो बंद हो गई। तो ये प्रोसेस हम सभी केसेस में फॉलो करते हैं। जो पिछली हमारी स्ट्रेटेजिक डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट 8 केसेस हुए हैं, उनमें भी हमने यही किया है। एयर इंडिया के लोगो, एयर इंडिया के जो ब्रांड्स हैं उसमें 8 लोगो हैं, वो उनके साथ ही, मतलब एयर इंडिया के साथ ही जाएंगे, मतलब उनके लिए ये उपयुक्त होंगे। और उसमें जो हमारा कंडीशन है कि 5 साल तक उसको वो लोग किसी भी तरह से ट्रांसफ़र नहीं कर सकते हैं, और यदि वो उसके बाद करना चाहेंगे तो भी वो इंडियन पर्सन्स तक ही रहेगा, यानी कि वो फॉरेन एंटिटीज़ को ट्रांसफ़र नहीं हो पाएगा इन परपेचुटी। That means in 5 years we are saying that the 5 years after 5 years they can actually transfer. It's a, brand is for them, so they can use it the way they like. But after 5 years they can transfer, but they cannot transfer to anybody other than Indian person. Which means Indian person, when I say person, it includes not only natural person, also the legal person. So therefore, it cannot go to any foreign entity.
So one question on AIAHL. You've talked about over 46,000 crore of debt which is going to be transferred, whereas the assets are roughly around 15,000 crore. So what really happens to the 30,000 crore balance? Basically, the debt that is going to remain in AIAHL after the assets have been accounted for. Is that a write-down?
As I said, that this is a government guaranteed debt, and the construct in the government guarantee is sovereign guarantee. If X doesn't pay, then government pays. So it is a commitment of the government which cannot be extinguished. Even if Air India were to, wind down or liquidate it, even if that were to happen, it cannot follow that haircut will be taken by the lenders. Lenders are totally protected in a government guaranteed debt. And in any case, that government has to be taken. And as I said before, this debt is on account of continuous losses for the last several years. How are the losses funded? Equity was not brought in to that extent. A lot of there was debt which was guaranteed by the government. So the lenders could give the debt because there was a government guarantee. Had the government guarantee not been there, no lenders would have given money to Air India to fund their losses. So this is the balance sheets of Air India speak for themselves.
So this 30,000 crore is going to be debt that is going to be accepted by the government or written down by the government or a haircut, whichever way you would like.
Government will have to repay, na?
Yeah, that's what I meant. So
it is not a written down. These are lenders' money. It has to be repaid.
Okay.
Number 11.
So just to clarify on the same point, Pranav here from Indian Express. Will there be budgetary infusions for this, and is there a timeline as to by when the government plans to repay this debt?
Yes, there are means that will be taken care of, because it was a part of the, this is not something which is negotiated. It is a part of PIM construct. If you recall, if you see the advertisements, that itself actually defines how it will be done. So this is not something which has come as a thing. It was a part of the process which was advertised, on the basis of which the bids were asked.
Sir, also, secondly, on the employees bit, what you said about the company having to retain the employees for at least 1 year, is it subject to certain conditions like performance of the employees and so on?
Of course, performance is always there. There are, protection doesn't mean an absolute protection. Disciplinary action and staff regulations always imply.
Number 26.
Sir, this is Nirbhay from UNI. My question is, to what extent Tatas will be allowed to exercise operational freedom? Tomorrow, if they decide to scale down the operations, will they be allowed? And secondly, sir, Subramaniam Swamy, he has said that the other bidder was not qualified technically. So are you ready for the legal hassles going forward?
Regarding the question on flexibility, that is there as per the contract. They are because 100% shares are being passed on, but there is a business continuity clause in the bid for in the conditions for 3 years. So there has to be a business continuity. But otherwise, operational freedom, yes, it has been given operational freedom.
Sunil Prabhu.
The other question is that, as I said before, we go by exactly as per the rules and regulations, and our transaction advisors, legal advisors have duly checked the whole system, and including the capacity of the net worth conditions, and so therefore this is absolutely as per law and regulations. The second one is that, I will tell you, there was a legal challenge earlier also in this case as well, when one of the 5 bidders which were disqualified, one bidder had preferred a case in Delhi High Court. And in August 2021, Delhi High Court upheld the decision of the government of disqualification and dismissed the case at the admission stage.
Sir, I just want...
No, there is no need to divulge that information, I think, for this.
Sir, my point comes back to the 14,000 crores assets that you have, set up a new entity. Is there a timeline? Will this now be governed by again the same process for disinvestment, or will you keep it on hold for a better time so that you can at least offset the loss to the taxpayer, which has happened so far?
I didn't understand your better time clause. No, the markets are, I think the people are looking at markets in different way. I think most of the people will agree that the markets are actually quite good these days. So the issue is that itself will have to process, because any asset monetization will have to also follow the due process. It's a very important thing to see in the government. Nothing gets done bilaterally or with one party. Everything has to be given as per due process of law. Competitive bidding, transparent bidding, everything is challengeable. As you say that, anything which the government, does, people can challenge it in the courts. So that is their right to do that. But we do absolutely as per well laid down process within the constitutional, mandate, and within the mandate which Apex Court has also, given in Balco case in 2003.
Number 3.
No, that is in due process you will come to know of it.
सर मैं शैलेश यादव हूँ ANI से. सर एक जो आपने एम्प्लॉयज़ को लेके बोला कि 1 साल तक छटनी नहीं हो सकती है, तो सर अभी एयर इंडिया में कितने एम्प्लॉयज़ हैं और 1 साल के बाद कुछ ऐसा क्लॉज है कि आप छटनी भी करेंगे तो आप इतने ही एम्प्लॉय की कर सकते हैं?
आज की तारीख में एयर इंडिया में 12,085 एम्प्लॉयज़ हैं, उसमें से 8,084 परमानेंट एम्प्लॉयज़ हैं और कॉन्ट्रैक्चुअल बेसिस पे 4,001 एम्प्लॉयज़ हैं. आज की तारीख में एयर इंडिया में 12,085 एम्प्लॉय हैं, उसमें से 8,084 परमानेंट एम्प्लॉय हैं और 4,001 कॉन्ट्रैक्चुअल एम्प्लॉयज़ हैं. इसके अलावा एयर इंडिया एक्सप्रेस में 1,434 एम्प्लॉय हैं. एक साल के बाद भी वो कंपनी में रहेंगे, जो अच्छे काम करेंगे वो कंपनी में ही रहेंगे. 1 साल और तक उनको VRS, अगर उनकी छटाई होगी तो VRS देना होगा. करेक्ट.
255. 255.
So over the next 5 years, about 5,000 employees would be retiring. So about 1,000 employees per year, you can say, broadly. And yes, mostly permanent. The contractual employees are generally younger employees, largely. I think that the new bidder will decide.
Hi, sir. Nikunj from Business Standard. My question is, sir, was there any a decision taken to not use the equity value of the airline and you chose to go with the enterprise value because that would have, deflated the valuation of the airline? And secondly, sir, with this sale going forward, will also government officials get some concessions with the airline that they currently do get?
No, the valuation of an enterprise is the same. No? It doesn't matter, where you do it. Enterprise value is the value of the enterprise, which is first determined. If you have to arrive at an equity value, you deduct the debt out of it and you reserve the equity value. So the two concepts are one and the same thing. The EV is important. EV came in here because the debt was excessive. So if suppose some debt is taken off, then we do not know how much debt to be taken off. But if you are retaining the debt in a company fully, right, then, EV minus debt is equal to the equity value. The question is that when you have an excessive debt, then, and your equity value is deeply negative, I mentioned is minus 32,000 crore. That is your equity value today as per your. So unless and until you reconstruct this balance sheet, the only option would have been to actually close down the company because there was no other option to run this kind of company. So, but this company has a lot of also other things. There's employees, it has got a lot of linkages, there is an aviation sector thing. So, and there is a connectivity, the hub in this, the diaspora, the need to connect to others. So if you look at all these considerations, there was absolutely clear that there has to be a restructuring. Some debt has to be taken off. How much is to be determined? So now, we have determined through a market process how much of debt will have to be taken off. At the same time, some of those non-core assets like building, etc., are not core to the business and therefore they can be separately sold. Maybe they may fetch a better value. So therefore they are being taken out.
Number 62.
What are the total employee-related liabilities that Air India is taking on and for how many employees? You mentioned that in the next 5 years, you expect 5,000 employees to retire.
There is no employee liability as the employees are there coming on. Employees are quite an asset if, they are put to use and the good business is there. Employees are useful. Oh, post-retirement thing. Post-retirement is basically we are talking of medical facilities. There is no other liabilities. It's only a medical facilities which retired employees and their spouses, they currently enjoy. And I think their number is about 55,000, if I'm right. Then their employees thing have to be continued that the government has agreed to take. The restrictions and other things, obviously, that the government employees have to travel only through this, that restriction will go because that's only for the Air India in government hands. No, but if the Air India employees used to be retired, No, I mean the passage rights, what we have said it, as per the industry practice. So there is nothing that we are mandating.
Number 7. Yeah, please.
Sir, do you think you've got the best price for Air India at 18,000 crore? And the second question is, sir, in the last bidding process, the last one which didn't take off, there was an option for the best bidder, the best 3 bidders
to revise their bids once. So why was that changed?
I didn't get the last one.
In the earlier attempt, when we were selling 74% stake, there was an option that the best three bidders would get an option to revise their bids upwards one time. So why was that option not retained in this process?
No, there is no such thing. Because last time, I do not know what you are, indicating. No, I mean, you're talking of which process? The March 2018 process? March 2018, process that, it didn't elicit even the EUI bid. So let us talk about the process which we have done. No, this is a market competitively determined price through a financial bidding process. If you have any other alternative, you can suggest us.
Okay. Sir, hi, this is Chetan from Business Today. Sir, just again, continuing with my colleague's question, sir, I'd like to ask you, do you think the price of setting up a reserve price of 12,000 crore rupees for a company like Air India is on a little lower side, whereas you got bids worth rupees 15,000 crores and 18,000 crores? Don't you think you could have, in order to get more money into your kitty, you could have probably had a more reserve price, like on a higher limit, so that bids could have been more competitive? Because a 15 and 18,000 crore gap is, like, it could be good enough for a company like Air India.
I think you have not really, I have been again and again, probably you were not listening. We are not knowing what bid is inside. It is not that, it is not a process where we are saying determine the reserve price and now uske upar boli lagao. ये नहीं है ना process, वो तो independent है, because they are independently giving their best price and sealing their fate. They are sealing their fate through this process, because they don't know, they have to bid. It is like any tender, So when you do the tender, so there is no upset price down below, upfront announced. And that you can understand, it is very difficult to do it for the company. I mean, suppose you were to say, for say XYZ company, now even the market price would change 10 times a day if it is a listed company. So what is the price? Tomorrow something happens, the price will go up tomorrow, next the price, market caps keep on increasing, decreasing. It's difficult to fix upfront some price.
1-to-1.
We can complete now.
Yeah, we'll take a last question and then we'll complete.
Sir,
No, it is not, as I said, I explained to you the process. The financial bids are logged in.
51.
Reserve price is separately done. That is your conjecture, no? Because we are, helped by the professional valuers.
Sir, my question is that you talked about 51% equity to be retained by the successful bidder. That for how many years they will have to retain 51% at least? And the second thing is that all the employees will be shifted from PF Act 1925 to PF Act 1952. That means in the EPFO system, EPFO mechanism.
Yes, they will be shifted to the EPFO system, Employee Provident Fund Organization, which is a far superior system. Yes.
51% for how many years they have to retain, sir? 51% for how many years they have to retain?
Equity lock-in is 1 year period.
Thank you, friends. We close the
There
press
is a
conference
business
now.
continuity, as I said, for 3 years. There are different clauses having a different thing. And as you say, as you know, that as per our requirement itself, that we have, the aircraft acts and rules and the FDI policies are also equally applicable.